Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. I'm your host Hassan. Today, I have with me Adil and Sadiku. We'll be discussing the Southampton versus Chelsea game. First, I wanted to ask Adil, what did you make of the first half, and what did you make of Chelsea, really? Because for all the position they had, it didn't seem like they were really creating anything, and then Southampton kind of hit them in the counter and scored.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Chelsea dominated the half, had a lot of possession. Chelsea really, I mean, Southampton really struggled to build up their play, and again, that comes down to the positioning of the Chelsea players and the way they press. They have basically effectively they press with 5 players, and then they have the 2 defensive mids and the 3 centre backs covering all the gaps in behind or in the space. So they're covering the space. So what happens is, unless you're very good at taking the ball and keeping it possession under tight areas, the long ball will come and Chelsea will recycle that ball because they've got 5 players ready to read where that play is going. So I thought, yeah, Chelsea dominated the game, struggled to make their attacking formation work. Now, in the first half, I thought one of the biggest reasons was the tempo. It was too slow, too many touches. They have too many dribblers, in that lineup. Even when he went to James quite a few times on the right-hand side, he was just dribbling, holding on to the ball. And they didn't recognize that they had a spare man in Alonso. So they never utilized that 5th attacker enough. And to do that, you have to switch the play very quickly from one end to the other. And Chelsea just weren't able to do that because they had too many ball players who wanted to hold on to the ball and beat their man instead of just play the ball and just get it to the spare man. So, and you have to give Southampton a lot of credit for the way they set up. I don't think Chelsea were expecting that, and it confused them.
Sadiku, what's your take on the first half and how Southampton performed, and obviously going in 1-0 ahead?
I think in the first half, Alonso, he had quite a few chances. That's probably because Bednarak, he didn't have his best game. A lot of Chelsea's chances came from the left. I agree with Adil in the sense that they were holding the ball too much. They could have created more clinical chances if they were playing more first-time passes. Like Mount, he held the ball up too much. Kante, that pass to Abraham, if it was played perfectly, that would have been a chance. So there was a few times where they, like, if they had their head up and they saw where their players were, they could have created a few more chances. Regarding the goal, Zuma, he wasn't tracking his player. He didn't see that Minamino was running through the middle, and that cost them heavily. And obviously, that was great composure from Minamino to scoring that goal.
I mean, on that point, really, I wanted to ask about 2 players, really, Kante and Zuma. Should Adil Kante have gone out quicker to kind of put a bit more pressure on the pass? And with regards to Zuma, was he facing the wrong way? 2, I mean, he seemed to have been too distracted by Djenepo's run, but Djenepo was covered by Rudiger. And should Aspilicueta should have come in to maybe become a bit more tighter? What's your take on that?
I think you mentioned quite a lot of the issues or the decision making that needed to take place. So that was the only moment in the game where, and it was rightly called out by the commentator Glenn Hoddle, who I think is probably right now the best commentator in any of the British broadcasting, because he actually comments on the match and sees it how it is. So yeah, that was the one time Chelsea were actually visibly tired. Kante was strolling around, not just Kante, also Kovacic they actually was tired. So that was the first time Southampton were able to play around the midfield, which they hadn't been able to do. So that gave them that build-up and allowed them to actually get the ball into one of the 2 frontmen for the first time, which was Redmond. Even though Redmond picked up slightly deeper, the fact was the gaps were there, that the gaps that Alonso has left and James has left, they were able to play around it. Now, like you said, the first thing is obviously the way in which Redmond was able to dribble through past Kovacic quite easily, and then obviously Kante's quite a bit on the right hand side, so he has to come across it. He's doing it quite so because of how tired he is. Now that causes the problem. And as you mentioned, the most important part of that attack was Djenepo's run, because that stops. That actually stops Rudiger from coming out, because now he's got to track a runner, and that's the momentary decision making that where Zuma just got caught in two minds. Do I step up and close down Redmond? Obviously, he does not recognize Kante trying to come across from his blind side, and he also doesn't recognize the diagonal run from his blind side from Minamino. And that momentary lapse, and that's all it was. But the timing of the pass and the timing of the run and the execution of the whole move from Southampton was perfect. That momentary lapse was enough to create the clear-cut chance. And obviously Zuma was very static. So yeah, he was flat and static, and Minamino made it, looked absolutely classy in the finish. The way he sat down as Paqueta, Mendy, great finish, great goal.
On that, really, the reason I'm going to ask this question to you, Sadiq, Christensen has been starting recently all the game under Tuchel in the centre. Do you reckon it is because of that reason where Zuma is not focused throughout the 90 minutes that Christensen is getting the nod ahead? Maybe he finally got the chance this week just to see what he could do. And obviously, he's proved kind of Tuchel's reason for not picking him recently.
I mean, regarding that, he had a good game. It's probably mostly like, I think, obviously with the manager change, you got to have that chemistry with the players, and because with the players, because they don't have that sort of chemistry, that could be a fault in the game. So in the sense that, for example, when you look at other teams where they have the constant defenders playing with each other, they read each other, they know each other. Like when one's going up and the other one knows to drop back. And there isn't that at the moment because there's been that management change, and now they've gone 3 defenders. They were used to that 4-4-2. It's going to take a bit of time for that to mold and for them to understand when one player needs to go to the left or to the right or track ahead or fall back.
I think there's two reasons why Tuchel went with Zuma. Number one is, I think, because they've got Europe this week in European games, and Christensen started the last 4, so you know he came in to fill in for Thiago Silva, and he wasn't fully ready to play as that many games straight away. So I think just to protect him. But number 2, I think the main reason was Tuchel was expecting Adams to start and not Redmond, and he wanted to match that physicality up, because with Adams they do play slightly the ball over the top a bit more, so they change their style slightly when Adams is on the pitch, because he can chase those balls in behind and also be physical. So I think he wanted to match up Adams' strength with Zuma. That was the thinking behind it, and you know, at the end of the day, Zuma is a quality player, like said, because he didn't play terrible. We're talking about split second, but you know, in the Premiership, when a team gets it right, they can punish you because the quality is very good.
Sadiq, what would you make of the second half and how Chelsea came out firing?
With the second half, I mean, in the beginning of the second half, they could have had a clear chance when Reece James, when he had that run on the ball, if he played that pass to Mount, that could have created a chance. Again, Mount few times he had the ball in the middle of the park. He could have played that pass to Alonso on the left, but he chose to play on the right. Again with Hudson-Odoi, Mount had the ball. He played it too late. Odoi is offside. So Chelsea did have it good, but I do think they got quite lucky with the penalty, in the sense that because they weren't clinical. If they didn't have that penalty, they would have lost the game. So they should have created more chances.
Do you think there's a decision-making problem then, Sadiq?
I think the decision-making is a problem. Especially with Mount. When Mount is on the ball, his head isn't up. He's not looking, where's my players on the left, where's my players on the right. His focus is on, let me play the ball. And I think when he's thinking about passing, he wants to pass it just before that defender is going to come close to him. And before that, it's too late, because he's probably trying to think, let me play the pass. And before that, the opposition's leg is already stuck into the ball and he's lost it.
Right.
So although he scored the goal and he had chances, he was the key player where if he played the pass at the right time, Chelsea could have created more chances and maybe scored more goals.
I think there is a chemistry issue with Chelsea's attacks. Because they're committing so many players to the attack, it almost feels as if they get in each other's way. So a lot of the times they end up making the run in behind too soon, because they're already there. Normally they wouldn't be in that position already. So what they do is they just make the run in behind, not realizing that the player, most of these players are playmakers playing in those positions. They're going to take 2-3 touches before they even look up, because like Sadiq alluded, they will want to commit the players. They're so used to playing as a 10 and being the guy who has to beat their man and then commit the next defender and then send it, that they're still having that mindset. And that chemistry isn't there, that when you're playing 5 across the top like they are, you just need to play 1-2 touches, so play the spare man in. You don't need to take 2-3 touches. And it feels like they get in each other's space too much because they want too much touches.
I mean, I really wanted to kind of get deep inside this Tuchel tactics, really, versus Southampton, and how Southampton really lined up. Because we discussed about Tuchel's system last week in our video, and I really want to kind of look into what is that Southampton did to kind of nullify that system. So Adi, if you could share the screen.
What I can show you the formation, but the main thing to highlight is that Southampton, even though they didn't play well, they caused problems for Chelsea because of their bravery in their formation and their lineup. And even though they couldn't play and execute their game and impose their way on the game as much as they would have liked, because Hasenhüttl stayed brave in keeping that formation and keeping that lineup, Chelsea had to respect it. So the best way to example, if I just show you on the screen, is so Southampton set up with a kind of 4-4-2 formation with Bednarek very narrow and having to do, so Bednarek and Djenepo had to do a 2-man job in terms of when the ball comes out to Alonso on this left-hand side, Bednarek is either coming across or Djenepo is. Rarely Djenepo had to. A lot of the times it's Bednarek who had to. But what people, and if you notice the amount of Djenepo won the ball in this attacking area, defensive mid area of the field, is because he was slightly behind the 2 defensive mids. So he's tucked in. So what that did was it made him pick up Werner, Mount, who are picking up the balls in these 10 positions. And a lot of times he got fouled because of it and won free kicks. So really interesting is the fact that they did not play Djenepo as a wing back, which I think everyone was expecting 3 at the back, Bertrand and Djenepo as wing backs. They didn't. They kept 4 narrow, and they said between Djenepo and Bednarek, we're going to play the risk. Alonso is a defender. Don't need to give him the respect of that we would if it was Hudson-Odoi or Werner or someone else. And the interesting thing was the moment Werner went out to the left, it caused problems. Right near the end, I think in the 83rd minute, when Mount went on the left, caused problems. But as the time when Alonso was there, it didn't cause them because he can't beat a man. So that in that time, Bednarek can come out and Djenepo can spot that ball into the 10. So this system was really good, but the most important part to this system is the fact that they left Minamino. And we were saying in previous weeks how, if you look at the game, we spoke about how much Azpilicueta, they leave 2-on-2 and Azpilicueta does underlap or overlap. This game, that wasn't possible because Southampton kept Minamino here. And I think once they were able to execute early in the second half, where they just played Azpilicueta tried getting involved, and Southampton straight away played the long ball in the channel, and Minamino was there, and they kept possession. So I have to say, tactically, really a good match, because Tuchel recognized the threat, and they kept Azpilicueta as a 3. So this is the first game where Southampton's formation disrupted Chelsea's attacking instincts, and probably how they set up every week, which is with Azpilicueta joining in. And that may be part of the reason for the dysfunction in their attacking, in their attacks. But I thought Hasenhüttl got rewarded for sticking with the brave formation, with the risk of, Ginepra having to do two players' job and Bednarek having to do 2 players' job, and they got rewarded. Ultimately, we can question Tuchel's substitution because they didn't recognize that Southampton were not respecting the attacking ability of Alonso.
On that, do you think Tuchel missed a trick here in not maybe just taking off one of the defenders and then maybe, having another player in midfield or number 10 or even Giroud up front to kind of get people up?
Yeah, I think that was disrespectful. When he took off Hudson-Odoi, I don't know if he was injured or not, but I think, as a new manager coming in and taking off someone like him, that's quite disrespectful. Let's hope it was an injury, because if it wasn't, then that's going to cause some.
Well, I would say the mistake was not recognizing that Alonso was not enough of a threat. So what's the point of? So you got 4 guys being marked here. You got Alonso free. Now, one, you're not in the first half. You weren't playing the ball to him well enough. Now, second half, you've recognized it, and what's happened is quite a few times at the beginning, anyway. Alonso was coming inside, so he's occupying Ginepra, and Werner was coming outside. That's where the chances were coming from. And towards the end of the game, they done the same move, but this time it was Mount out on the left. Now the problem is you got Hudson-Odoi on, and he's played the position, wing back position, or where James was playing. Why not take him on the left? Actually take him on the left and force this winger to actually defend, because when the few times when Ginepra did pick him up, he struggled. He gave you a foul, or because he's not a defender, and he's not a defensive. I mean, he done a job on the defensive mid position quite a few times. He won free kick or dribbled out of trouble because he's a winger. But yeah, I mean, the problem was Tuchel did not recognize it, and probably was worried about the counter-attack too much, not to take that risk. But yeah, definitely was disrespectful. I did think Hudson-Odoi deserved to get subbed. He wasn't given enough chance. I mean, you got players, Mount was holding on to the ball, and he's making things happen, so I could understand that. But I couldn't understand how much James was holding on to the ball. So yeah, ultimately, Chelsea did not get the right personnel. Personally, I think they should have put a winger out there, and that would have really forced Hasenhüttl's hand in having to change from having 2 up top, because that was brave as well, going 2 up top, but that allowed Southampton to press the centre back. So in that first half, Chelsea couldn't create good chances either, because they're having to play long in behind to Abraham quite a few times, because Southampton have committed so many players to the press too. And again, I can't help but praise Southampton for the way in which they were willing to leave 4v4 across the back, and the risk of one of the defender, Bednarek or Ginepra, having to come across to cover the space of the 5th attacker. Ultimately, that was the difference. They didn't respect Alonso, and Chelsea done nothing to get a more attacking player to expose that.
Sadiku, would you say the draw was a fair result at the end?
I mean, I think Chelsea should have won that game. That game was theirs to win. And Alonso was creating a lot of chances from the left. So yeah, maybe they should have moved Hudson-Odoi or Ziyech should have come on and found that Bednarek is not doing as well as he should be on that side, and they should have exposed that. When they came in the last 15 minutes, it didn't seem like the players come on fighting for the win. It was just like, we're happy with the draw. We need to be safe because we don't want to expose them. I think Tuchel should have told his players, let's go fight for this win because we can do it. Obviously, their players, because Abraham came off, maybe they felt like they didn't have enough clinical players to score. Mount was taking shots outside the box. They should have created more chances in the box. Led to them having only 4 shots on target. There was times where Werner could have played the pass back, but he didn't. He thought, let me take the shot. So I actually think Chelsea should have won that game. Southampton only had 1 shot on target, and they scored from that 1 shot.
I think Chelsea you could say Chelsea were the better team. I don't think they created enough to have won the game. I felt a draw was a fair result because Chelsea just didn't create anything. I can't remember McCarthy having to make a save. I think even in terms of shots on target, I don't think they had hardly any. If you dominate a game without creating clinical chance, doesn't mean you deserve to win the game, in my opinion. And you look at that Chelsea bench. They left Giroud on the bench. They left Perisic on the bench. They had the players to really make a difference.
But the reason they haven't bought Perisic on is because I've read recently that he's got a slight muscle problem. So I think they're just looking after him. So I think that's why he didn't put him on.
Still, you have to question Giroud not coming on. You have to question subbing Hudson-Odoi and leaving Alonso on the pitch. I could understand why he wanted to keep Werner and Mount because they're the only players making something happen. But then you have to question why did James even was an option to sub because he had no cutting edge. And that showed in the chance where Matt goes past 2 players, crosses the ball in, and James just leans back and blazes it over the bar. So there were better options to make more positive personnel changes, I feel. And Southampton deserve it. Tactically, that was very clever from Hasenhüttl. Something I've been quite critical of Southampton before because I've said quite a few times, they're similar to Leeds in terms of they struggle to adapt during games. They have that one style and they stick to it. And it's going to be great to watch because it's all out attacking football. But today we saw a tactical discipline and intelligence from their team that bodes well for the future because I thought, it's the next stage for Southampton, which is to become a bit more tactically aware, a bit more balanced in their play. And today we saw that. Very clever.
I think it's also important to remember that Southampton still have a few injuries. Like they have quite a few players injured. They had quite a young bench as well. So obviously tactically in the game, they've done a great job. But when we're looking at quality, Chelsea's a quality team. They've got a great manager behind them. They got to start winning these games. They can't be pulling off performances like this, especially when you're up against a team that just had 6 losses. This is your time to take the advantage. And if you're going to show the Premier League that I'm a manager that's going to dominate, you've got to turn up times like this.
I think Southampton were very close to their starting, other than the right back, which is why they're having this problem with this Dnipro semi-playing wing back stroke CD, right-sided CDM, is because they haven't got their right back. So other than if you look at the 10 other players, their first team, and still you have to commend because Chelsea have been dominating every team, and Azpilicueta just wasn't a factor today like he has been in the attack of the previous game. So I think definitely Southampton deserved the point. It was a fascinating game in terms of tactics. Maybe can get a bit mundane because Chelsea are very good at dominating the game. But you can see they need to sharpen up. They need to play with a quicker tempo, and they need to stop getting in each other's way. Chelsea attackers.
Great point of views, really. Really looked into how the Chelsea system works and how Southampton really nullified the system. So yeah, thank you both for your insight into the game, and I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Oh, thanks. Take care.
Hi guys, just to remind you, really, we have the Merseyside derby that we're going to be talking about, which is going to come out on Sunday morning. We will have all the other games from the Sunday that will come out on Sunday night and Monday morning. So do keep an eye out, and also like, subscribe, and share the videos, please. Thank you guys. See you soon.